Welcome to Fighting Stats, the ultimate channel for UFC fans who love statistics and betting breakdowns. I'm your host, Art C, and today I'll be getting you ready for the upcoming UFC fight. Here at FightingStats.com, we have exclusive UFC stats not available anywhere else. We can tell you how often a fighter throws that left hook or that right jab in southpaw, how often they move backwards, or how often they throw kicks. We have all of that information, but that is not all. In this series, I'll be watching tape and I'll give you my real-time analysis on how the fight's going to go. I'm going to watch for fighter strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and overall strategies to give you my prediction on how I think the fight is going to go and ultimately who's going to win. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Fighting Stats. Welcome back to Fighting Stats. I'm your host, Art C, and today we are breaking down the UFC Fight Night fight between Karini Silva and Ariane Lipsky. We have watched the fight tape. We are diving deep into the stats, and we're going to get you a best bet breakdown. So let's get into the breakdown. What I like to do is first I like to go into all of our fighting stats, detailed breakdowns, tell us what the numbers say, and then we'll overlay that with the fight tape in terms of what we saw on tape, what the tendencies we saw, and then we'll get you a best bet where I think the numbers sort of lie, and then get you a winner sort of thing. So let's get right into the breakdown. Here is our fighting stats tail of the tape. I put Karini Silva into the blue side, Ariani Lipsky on the red side here. So it looks like Ariani Lipsky going to have 1 inch of height advantage. The reach is going to be about the same. Both fighters fighting in orthodox there. So Karini Silva going to be 3-0 in the UFC. All of her wins coming from submission, never been finished. In her career, Silva has a 100% finish rate, so has never gone to decision. I think she has 5 or 6 fights by submission wins there, on a little bit of a win streak there. Ariani Lipsky only 6-5 in the UFC there. 33% of her wins coming from submission, 67% of her wins coming from decision. 5 losses, 60% of those coming from KO, and 40% of them coming from decision. Worth noting, Ariani Lipsky in her 25-fight professional career has never been submitted. Worth noting there again, Karini Silva on a little bit of a submission run there. So detailed striking here for Karini Silva. It's going to be a 3-fight sample size here, but overall 64% of her strikes going to be at a distance, 22% of them going to be in the clinch, and 14% of the strikes landed going to be on the ground. In terms of target breakdown, 66% of her strikes going to be towards the head, 14% towards the body, and 20% towards the leg. So big leg kick numbers there. Striking accuracy pretty interesting here. 29% head strike accuracy, 63 to the body, and only 50% leg strike accuracy there. And average strikes thrown by rounds. Again, she's only seen round one, so only been in round one. So average strikes thrown, 44 strikes thrown in round one, 17 strikes landed in round one, and only 1 knockdown there. Again, 3-fight sample size there against Marina Rose, Ketlin Souza, and Poliana Botelho. Some of the numbers that I wanted to go into. Look at these numbers here in terms of Karini Silva versus Poliana Botelho. She threw 68 strikes in round number 1 against Poliana Botelho, only landed 17 of those strikes, 5 of them coming from the ground. So really only landed 12 strikes in that round there, after throwing 68 of them. I did talk about in that, and I'll go into the breakdown a little bit later, but just the distance management. She was throwing a lot of air, throwing a lot of punches there, just wasn't able to close the distance at all there. Big leg kicks numbers though here. 26 leg kicks thrown in those 3 fights there. Again, only round 1 fights. Landed only 13 of those leg kicks again. Somewhat of the distance management thing there. So defensive striking there. 83% of the strikes landed against going to be at a distance, 17% on the clinch, has not eaten any ground strikes there. 72% of the strikes landed towards the head, 22% towards the body, and 6% towards the leg. Defensive striking, 31% head strike defense, 72% body defense, and 80% leg kick defense. Again, has not seen past round 1 there, but has absorbed 12 strikes absorbed in round number 1, seen 27 strikes there for an overall significant strike against at 34% there. Has not been knocked down in those three fights there. Eating some leg kicks there. So let's go over to Ariane Lipsky, offensive striking. She's going to be the queen of violence, decent striker there. 77% of her strikes landed going to be at a distance, 15% in the clinch, and 8% on the ground. Whereas her target breakdown, 72% towards the head, 22% towards the body, and 7% towards the leg. Not a huge leg kicker, but she will mix in the leg kicks as well. Head strike accuracy, only 29% head strike accuracy, 73% body strike accuracy, and 69% leg strike accuracy. We did see her go to the body quite often. Again, 22% towards the body there. In terms of strikes thrown by round, her strikes thrown does go up as the rounds go on. So 42 strikes thrown in round number 1, 48 in round number 2, and 56 in round number 3, landing 18, 21, and 21. She does have 3 knockdowns, 1 in round 1, 1 in round 2, and 1 in round 3. And then average strikes thrown by round again. Leg kicks 2, 3, 3, and then head strikes going from 9, 10 to 10. Pretty consistent with the strikes there. So overall significant strike accuracy at 46%. Again, we talked about the 3 knockdowns, knocking down Mandy Bohm in rounds 2 and 3, and locking down Isabella de Padua in round number 1 there. Again, not a huge leg kicker, thrown 83 leg kicks, landed 57 of them, so decent numbers, but not a huge part of her game plan. Mostly a counter boxer, if I'm being honest, from what we've seen. Decent strikes in the clinch as well, a lot of those coming from knees. Not a ton of ground strikes, doesn't really look to get the fight down to the ground, but we'll throw some ground strikes if it gets there. All right, so Lipsky's red defensive striking here. So 71% of her strikes against going to be at a distance, 10% in the clinch, and 20% on the ground. Whereas her target breakdown, 77% head landed towards the head, 12% to the body, and 11% towards the leg. Defensive striking accuracy, 40% head strike defense, which isn't great, 69% towards the body, and 80% defensive leg kick accuracy. So does land or does absorb a couple of leg kicks, not the greatest there. Has been knocked down once, and that was in round number 1. Absorbed 16 strikes in round number 1 on average, 23 strikes in round number 2, and then 19 strikes in round number 3. So a little bit of back and forth there between rounds 1 and 3, round 2 being the worst for Ariane Lipsky. Overall, again, significant strike against, 48%, and been knocked down once, and that was against Priscilla Cachoeira in round number 1. She got finished round 1 KO. So one of the biggest holes that we've seen with Ariane Lipsky is the detailed grappling, and again, we talked about that submission run for Karini Silva. So we're going to the grappling report. Very important numbers here we'll talk about. So on average, again, this is only a 3-fight sample size for Karini Silva. She's attempted 3 takedowns. She's landed 3 takedowns, so 100% success rate. For an overall control time of 180 seconds or 179 seconds. Again, only round 1s in those 3 fights there. So she does have 3 submission wins, 3 submission attempts. So pretty good numbers there. Again, 100% takedown accuracy so far. And again, throws some strikes on the ground. Thrown 9 strikes, landed 7. 11 in the clinch, landed 12 of them. So pretty decent numbers there. Defensive grappling we won't go into. I don't really see Ariane Lipsky looking to grapple. What she does do is it's sort of part of her defensive takedown is she actually throws in a couple of takedowns of her own, but I don't see Ariane Lipsky doing proactively grappling, so I'm going to skim over the numbers there. She does have 9 takedown attempts against. 5 of them have been successful, but again, I don't think she looks for the takedown here. So the numbers that I wanted to go over here were the red defensive grappling, so Ariane Lipsky's takedown attempts against. We looked at the I wanted to start around the Antina Shevchenko fight. There she got controlled on the ground by Shevchenko and little sister Shevchenko, not the big sister. Shevchenko goes 1 for 3 in takedowns, but she gave up 228 seconds in round number 1 to Shevchenko, and then again 231 seconds of control time in round number 2, eventually getting ground and pounded in that fight there. So. And then she takes on Montana De La Rosa. De La Rosa going for 2 out of 3 in takedowns. Again, giving up 155 seconds in round number 1 of control time and 257 seconds of control time in round number 2. One of the things we noticed in those 2 fights is that Ariane Lipsky, when she did get to bottom position, she sort of accepted that position. We really didn't see her fighting to get up, didn't look for underhooks. Really didn't do anything, sort of rode out the round on the ground. So not really what you wanted to see there. But she lost those 2 fights in a row. Definitely looked like there was a big grappling hole there, something that she needed to fix. So she did go back and she worked on the takedown attempts. That Montana De La Rosa 2021 was the last time she got taken down. So Mandy Baum, not a great grappler, but she goes 0 for 4 in takedowns. Priscilla Cachoeira, again, she got caught in round number 1, got taken, ended by KO. JJ Aldridge goes 0 for 12 in takedowns. Melissa Gatto goes 0 for 7 in takedowns. Casey O'Neill goes 0 for 2 in takedowns. So again, Ariani Lipsky, her takedown defense looks pretty good, very improved. But I do want to highlight something in that Mandy Baum, JJ Aldridge, Melissa Gatto, and Casey O'Neill, not the greatest of grapplers. All sub 25% takedown accuracy. Again, we talked about Karini Silva going 3 for 3 in takedown accuracy there as well. So decent takedown numbers for Karini Silva, and the strength of schedule for Lipsky, not the greatest, but she has looked good in those fights. She managed to keep the fight standing, and again, when she is able to keep the fight standing, she's able to land some bigger shots and win those fights. So part of the reason that she is winning these fights for Lipsky is that she's able to keep the fight standing. So let's go into the Fighting Stats time breakdown here. So for Karini Silva, we did go back and watch outside of the UFC. So we have the CD Rocha fight, we have the Contender Series fight. 35% of her fight time overall that we watched was going to be standing. 56% of that fight time is going to be on the ground, and 6% on the clinch. When she is on ground and top control, when she is on ground on top, 60% of that time is going to be in half guard, 35% is going to be in side control, and only 6% in half guard. 60% in north-south there. On the ground, we won't look at that. We're going to go into Ariane Lipsky over her fight career, or the fight types that we watched. 64% of the fight time is going to be standing. 21% is going to be on the ground there. 1% defending takedowns, 4% in the clinch, things like that. So when she is on bottom, though, most of the time that she's given up in that last fight was in back mount. But again, she didn't give up much time there, so we won't go into that much. Let's go over to the Fighting Stats striking tendencies. So Karini Silva, we didn't see a lot of striking from Karini Silva, but we did see her throw a lot of punches into air. She does throw the jab 23% of the time. She throws the 1-2 13% of the time, and then she throws that rear low kick 9% of the time, and rear high kick 8% of the time. It's just she doesn't land them too much because she's standing way outside in kicking range. Throws them. Actually, she likes to throw that rear high kick a lot. So she throws that a lot, but again, doesn't land it too much, too often there. Whereas Ariane Lipsky, what I find is that she has a very good right hand, very fast right hand counter. So 15% of her strikes are going to be the 1-2 combo, and then 11% is going to just be the naked 2. She step backs, throws that right hand there. 9% going to be the single jab, and then 8% going to be the 2-1. 4% going to be the 2-1-2 combo. So the top 5 frequent strikes for Ariane Lipsky are the 1-2, the 2, the 1, the 2-1, and the 2-1-2. So a lot of straight punches coming down the middle for Ariane Lipsky. Very good fast hands, very nice right hand counter. And then she throws the right high kick 3% of the time. So decent striking there for Ariane Lipsky. Let's get into the fight breakdown in terms of how I see the fight going, the tendencies that we saw. Right away for me, it's the takedown defense. So the fight's going to start standing. Both of them are going to start orthodox. One of the things that I really found, and it really stood out for me, is that that fight with Karini Silva and Poliana Botelho. Again, Karini Silva throws 68 strikes standing, only landing 17 of them. It's because she stood way outside in kicking range. She likes to throw these kicks, likes to throw these punches, but there's nothing behind them. She's sort of planting her feet and throwing them. Whereas Ariane Lipsky also wants to stand outside in kicking range there. So it's going to be a little bit of a stalemate, I think, early on. I think Karini Silva is going to have to enter and try to get the fight down to the ground. If she stays at range there, like she did against Poliana Botelho, I think that Ariane Lipsky is going to probably pick her apart at range. She's going to throw a lot of these kicks. But One of the things I found with Ariane Lipsky, again, she's a counter puncher, mostly a counter boxer. So she's going to stand way outside her range. Karini Silva is going to sort of be a little bit tentative in entering that range. So she's going to throw these strikes. She's going to throw volume, but none of them are going to land. As soon as she comes into the pocket, then I think Lipsky's going to unload, throw a bunch of these 1-2s, these straight twos, things like that. So I do think that Lipsky has a little bit of the power edge, a little bit of the speed edge, especially standing. Karini Silva going to have to get the fight down to the ground again. But again, the main concern for me for the Silva side is that the distance in which she keeps. So she stands way outside in kicking range. And I see, again, I talked about Ariani Lipsky liking to stay outside in kicking range. It's going to be Karini Silva has to close the distance with strikes, then level change for a takedown, get the takedown, and then ride her out on the bottom. So definitely possible if Karini Silva can get the takedown. I think she has a big mismatch on the ground there. She probably works Ariane Lipsky. Again, Ariane Lipsky never been submitted in her professional career, but Karini Silva very crafty on her back, very crafty on top. Looks for the guillotine, very nasty guillotine. But again, I don't think Lipsky really looks for the takedown, so it's not like she's going to stick her neck in there. Karini Silva has to sort of jump the guillotine. With Lipsky being a little bit taller, not like in her Contender Series debut, it's going to be a little bit harder to drop in that guillotine. And if Lipsky somehow able to pop back out, then she's able to survive. I don't think that Lipsky's going to stay in top control too often. I think she might rain down some ground and pound, but then stand back up and want to keep the fight standing. So for me, it all comes down to the takedown for Karini Silva. And I don't know, what it is. Is it Lipsky's takedown defense looked really good in the last couple of fights. Has not allowed a takedown since 2021. But again, the level of competition shooting for those takedowns hasn't been great either. Karini Silva has looked the part in terms of the grappler, pretty good grappling there. So again, it comes down to the takedown. If Karini Silva can get the fight down to the ground, I think she can either ride out top control for multiple rounds or find a submission. She's been pretty optimistic or opportunistic, I would say, in getting the takedowns. A lot of these submissions coming with like 1 second left in round number 1, 2 seconds left in round number 1. I wouldn't put it past Karini Silva to find the submission here, but I think if she can't find the submission and she can't get the takedown, Lipsky's live to win this fight here, and she's been the underdog in the last 3 fights in a row, and she's won those last 3 fights in a row. Here, Ariane Lipsky coming in as a slight underdog in this fight here. I do think she's live, but I do think if she wins, it's probably going to be a decision. It's possible that she rocks Karini Silva. Just I think it's the threat of the takedown doesn't let Ariane Lipsky really sit down on a lot of the punches, overextend a little bit on the punches, right? We did see that anytime anybody level changes, especially in that J.J. Aldridge fight, Ariane Lipsky dropping the hands right away for the underhooks, trying to defend the takedown. We have seen some improved balance from Lipsky as well on the takedown defense. And she might work in her own takedowns as well. So I just all that to say it comes back down to the takedown defense, and if Lipsky can keep the fight standing, she's definitely a live dog. But if it gets down to the ground, I can see Karini Silva definitely controlling the grappling. She might actually submit Lipsky, but she might actually take her to decision as well. So a lot of options, different ways of paths to victory here. Let's go into the numbers. I'll get you my breakdown in terms of how I see the fight going. So I'm pulling up my handy dandy bankroll tracker here. What I like to do is I like to sort of allocate percentages to all the fight outcomes. It helps me determine where the value bets lie, maybe what the actual side is, and sort of where the best bets lie. So I put Karini Silva in the blue corner here. We have Ariane Lipsky in the red corner there. So right away we started with Karini Silva to win by TKO. I definitely think it's possible. It could come from various ways. We have seen Lipsky lose a couple of fights by ground and pound. So I think the ground and pound is very live for Karini Silva if she gets the fight down to the ground. I do think that she can throw some power in her hands as well. We have seen Lipsky get KO'd by Priscilla Cachoeira there as well. But generally, she's pretty good at absorbing the damage here. So I'm going to give Karini Silva maybe a 15% chance to win by KO. I don't think it's too likely, but I think it's possible. Moving on to Karini Silva to win by submission. That's going to be her bread and butter, right? She has 5 or 6 fights in a row by submission. Ariane Lipski seems to have a big grappling hole in the submission or the grappling, defensive grappling there. So I think if she gets the fight down to the ground, the extended top time for Silva, I think the submission will present herself. Whether it's I don't know if it's going to be a guillotine again. I don't think Lipski sticks her neck in anything, but could be like a mounted crucifix, maybe an arm triangle sort of thing. Could be a rear naked choke thing. So I'm going to put maybe 25% for Karini Silva. Seems a little bit high if I'm being honest, but we'll put it at 25% for now. Karini Silva to win by decision. I think it's possible as well. I think it could come from extended top time. If she does get the top time but not able to submit Lipski, I think Karini Silva could win a decision as well. Probably doesn't come from the striking though. If she can't get the fight down to the ground, she probably loses a stand-up matchup. So I'm going to leave it at 10% there. Sounds about right. I think if she does get the fight down to the ground, then she likely submits her. But if she doesn't, then she could win in some minutes from top time, things like that. So Ariani Lipsky to win by TKO. I think it's possible as well. Ariane Lipski has a very nice right hand counter. We haven't really seen Karini Silva go late into the later rounds. We have seen Lipski go later rounds, so I'm assuming that round 3 probably is a Lipski round. So it's possible that Lipski wins late or probably takes the fight to decision there. So if Karini Silva to win by TKO is 15%, I have to leave Lipski about 20%. Lipski to win by submission. I know she won her last fight by submission, but that was more of a opportunistic. She was going for the ground and pound. Wasn't able to finish her there. I don't want to put 0, but I don't want to put 5%. It's probably less than 5%, if I'm being honest. Just the type of fighter, and she's going to avoid the ground there. But I'll put 0 for now just because I want to put... okay, I'll put 5% for submission. That's fine. And then Ariane Lipski to win by decision. I think it's likely as well. She's won the last couple of fights by decision, keeping the fight standing. I want to say it's at least 25%, could be 30% if I'm being honest. But I think 25% makes sense there. All right, so just to recap the numbers, you tell me what sounds off. It seems about right, but Karini Silva to win by TKO, 15% plus 567 or better. Karini Silva to win by submission, 25% plus 300 or better. Silva to win by decision, 10% plus 900 better, or a total money line of 50% or plus 100. On the Ariane Lipsky side, Lipsky to win by TKO, 20% plus 400 or better, 5% to win by submission plus 1900 or better, or Lipsky to win by decision, 25% plus 300 or better, for a total money line of 50%. Plus 100 or better. So I see the fight as sort of being 50-50. It really comes down to the takedown again. Karini Silva to win inside the distance, 40% plus 150 or better. Lipski to win inside the distance, 25%. Fight goes to decision, I have as 35%. Fight doesn't go to decision at 65%. That sounds about right. Karini Silva has a 100% finish rate. We haven't really seen her go long, so I could see finishes on both sides there. Most Karini Silva more likely to find the finish. 62% inside the distance only rate at minus 160s there. So I haven't checked the numbers recently, so let me see what the current odds are. Go over to fightodds.io is where I get my lookups there. Karini Silva minus 152. The comeback on Lipski plus 132. Let me put that in. 152 minus 132. So minus 152 plus 132. So putting into my Kelly Criterion calculator, telling me bet on Ariane Lipski at 1.5 units at plus 132. Again, I cap her around plus 100. We're getting plus 132. So 8th Kelly Criterion telling us 1.5 units. I may end up on that side. I'm going to look at some prop numbers, see where those numbers end up as well. If I do end up making a play on the bet, though, I will post it over to patreon.com/FightingStats. That's where I end up posting all of my plays there. I do get some creative with some props there, but overall, I think maybe, again, it's 50-50. Really depends on the number where we're getting on the props, but that's sort of where I see the fight playing out. I don't think anything is outrageously out there. I think Karini Silva maybe gets it done, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Ariane Lipski winning by decision. I think that's very possible, especially with the improved takedown defense that we've seen on tape so far. So keep that in mind there. We'll be watching for that, especially maybe even live betting Lipsky after round one if she survives round one. We haven't really seen Karini Silva go late into the UFC against that level of competition there. So keep that in mind there. That's the breakdown. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. If anything seems super off, let me know how we're doing as well. But my name is Artsy, and this is Fighting Stats. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. Let me know how we did. Best of luck. Thanks for watching. All right, guys. Well, that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this type of content, make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe. You'll get notified anytime we put out new content. Listen to this. We just hit a massive parlay for $29,000 at UFC 297. That is one UFC after 296 where we hit a parlay for $82,000. That's back-to-back parlays. We've made $110,000. And how do we do it? We use our exclusive fighting stats, not available anywhere else. Our exclusive fighting stats gives us information, gives us a big edge over the sportsbooks, and tell us what's going to happen within the fights. We post all that information, our breakdowns, our best bets, over at patreon.com/fighting stats. Don't miss out. Make sure you subscribe today. Again, my name is Art C. This is Fighting Stats. Thanks for watching.